Hello, welcome to this week's episode of your flagship program, Telecom Weekly. Telecom Weekly aims at educating, informing and updating you with the latest trends, issues, news and development in the telecom and ICT sectors, particularly in Nigeria. Telecom Weekly is an initiative of the telecom regulator, the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC. Ensuring the implementation of efficient and accurate billing systems by telecom licensees is part of our mandate at NCC. Once again, welcome. I am your host, Oluwatobi Eniton. In this episode, Talk to the Regulator Stakeholder Consultative Forum addresses concerns of telecom consumers. We owe it a duty to protect your interest. Telecom regulator assures consumers. Plus, contribution of the telecom sector boosts Nigeria's gross domestic product, GDP. It promises to be well-packaged episode coming your way today. Please stay with us.
On NCC Telecom Weekly, we bring you innovations, trends, policies and stakeholders, redefining all sectors of our economy today. Here, you'll see the actors, policymakers and creativity that will shape your mind and business for growth in line with today's reality. Join us every Friday, 5 p.m. on NTN Network and on radio, FRCN Network on Fridays, 8 p.m. NCC, Connecting Nigeria.
How to maximize your mobile data to avoid wastage. Disable mobile data when it is not needed. Use data compression in your browsers. Deactivate all cloud storage except where necessary. Reduce streaming quality from websites such as YouTube, Netflix, and Hulu. Turn off automatic updates on your devices. Set up data usage alerts on your devices. Do not interrupt downloads in between sessions. Close all apps when they are not in use. Control the time you spend on social media feeds. And send large files when connected via Wi-Fi only.
The telecom regulator says providing affordable and reliable telecom services for Nigerians remains top priority. This was at a two-day stakeholders consultative forum tagged Talk to the Regulator held in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital.
One important agenda in the regulatory roadmap of the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) is the Commission's unwavering determination to ensure that every Nigerian has access to affordable and reliable telecommunications services. Professor Umar Garuba Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman and CEO of the Telecom's regulatory body, gave this position at a two-day stakeholder consultative forum tagged Talk to the Regulator, which held in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital. In his keynote address at the forum, Professor Dambata, represented by Usman Mamman, Deputy Director, Licensing and Authorization, disclosed that the NCC is providing industry leadership to facilitate the achievement of 90% broadband penetration by the year 2025 and well above 50% at the end of 2023, in line with the Nigerian National Broadband Plan 2020 to 2025.
The Commission, in its usual style of operation, normally interact with the industry to, one, educate the industry on developments in the industry, to also educate our licensees on their obligations, and also to get feedback from the licensees and industry generally on the activities of the Commission generally. Of course, this feedback, this interaction gives us enough input to really work on our regulations and interventions.
While noting that over 150 million Nigerians currently have access to internet, with over 80 million having access to high-speed internet, the EVC added that the Commission is currently reviewing existing licenses to make them more robust and to accommodate some of the identified new industry trends.
This is a very dynamic industry. The telecom industry is a very dynamic industry. We have been issuing licenses for over 2 decades, and so we felt, because of the dynamism of the industry and because of changes in technology, there is need to really look at developments and trends and incorporate them in our licenses, and that's why we're reviewing our licenses to accommodate new developments, new trends, new technology, for better services and for the betterment of the country generally.
Also speaking at the event, Barrister Adeleke Adeolu, Executive Commissioner, Stakeholders Management, NCC, noted that the forum was initiated to create awareness about the activities of the Commission as a regulator and obtain feedback from critical stakeholders on how the industry affects their daily lives. Represented by Mr. Damilola Ogundikbe, Office of the Executive Commissioner, Stakeholders Management, Mr. Adeolu further emphasized the Commission's strategic objective of facilitating strategic collaboration and partnership with critical stakeholders in the industry.
The communication sector is indeed the base sector as far as the expansion and the frontiers for national development is concerned. This was further underscored by the recent implement of the 5th generation technology, that's 5G services in the country, which we believe will ensure Nigeria maximizes the benefit of the 4th industrial revolution, whilst being sufficiently prepared for any attendant risks which may occur in deploying 5G.
Mr. Mohammed Babajika, Director, Licensing and Authorization Department, NCC, represented by Usman Maman, Deputy Director, Licensing and Authorization, provided information that the Commission's consideration of new trends, especially as they relate to reviews of license categories.
Consumers are very key to the Commission. We all live, as a regulator, even as a telecom provider, we all depend or we all provide service to the consumer, and all of us are consumers. So we make sure that every service provider has what is called individual consumer code of practice, which the Commission must approve. And the essence of having this consumer code of practice is to govern your relationship with the consumer.
Earlier, Veni Eze, Zonal Controller, Port Harcourt Zonal Office, NCC, had expressed gratitude to participants of the forum, which she describes as a platform for dialogue between the NCC, licenses and other industry stakeholders.
NCC, as a regulator, has put in place initiatives to ensure that our prospective licensees are carried along in what we do. This forum today is a consultative forum for selected licensees. The aim is to ensure that we engage these licensees on one-on-one. They speak to the regulator, and then we're able to come up with ideas.
Talk to the Regulator Forum is an initiative of the NCC aimed at having frank discussions towards addressing the challenges facing the country's rapidly developing telecom sector. The event, which has as its theme enhancing stakeholder satisfaction, brings together licensees and the regulator, industry leaders and representatives from telecommunications companies for non-discriminatory interaction on several industry-related issues on a one-on-one basis.
If you send a message to 2442, all right, and it will give you the ability to be able to stop all text messages, that is a requirement of the telecom law as we have it today in Nigeria. However, there are some other part of it that if there are certain messages you may wish to get, you can equally log into those messages. So it's not, it's a very simple process right now. This has been done over 4 or 5 years ago. So if you go to our website, there are so many information you can get on NCC website on how to manage some of these things. But if, however, those messages keep coming, then you have a right for you to lodge a complaint to your service provider, irrespective of whatever operator it may be. And if they did not respond to you in good time means that at a minimum of 12 hours, then you have a right to come to NCC. And you don't have to come to Abuja or go to Port Harcourt, our office in Port Harcourt. You can easily just on your phone lodge a complaint through the 622 code, and then you talk to an agent. The agent will take your complaint, and that complaint will be sent to the respective operator for them to handle.
The third edition of Market Conversation Initiative, organized by the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), has been held at the Bodija International Market in the ancient city of Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. There, NCC says it owes it a duty to continue to protect the interests of telecom consumers.
Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) has again reiterated its resolve to continually ensure the protection and empowerment of telecom consumers from unfair practices has once again been emphasized. This time, it was at the ancient city of Ibadan in Oyo State, where the Commission sensitized traders at the Bodija International Market on ways to reduce data usage on mobile telecommunications networks. The event was the third edition of the Market Conversation Initiative of the Commission. In his address at the occasion, Professor Umar Garuba Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman, NCC, represented by the Deputy Director, Consumer Affairs Bureau, Mr. Ayabanji Ojo, pointed out the necessity for the market conversation. The NCC's EVC further spoke on how best to manage data utilization, adding that there will be excessive use of data when some apps are running in the background. The NCC's Market Conversation Sensitization campaign featured lectures, questions and answers related to issues of concern in the industry. Among them was the need to protect telecom infrastructure in their neighborhoods to ensure uninterrupted service delivery and ensuring to use NCC's toll-free number 622 for complaints and other reports if dissatisfied with resolutions of complaints by any network service provider.
You can always be a part of this program by joining us via multiple social media platforms. For inquiries on this program, you can send a mail to telecomweekly@ncc.gov.ng. For further details about the activities of the Commission, visit www.ncc.gov.ng. We will now take a break. Telecom Weekly resumes shortly. Please don't go away.
Have you heard of the Nigerian Communications Commission NCC 622 toll-free number? Do you have any complaints about the services rendered by your service provider? Have you complained to your network provider? Are you dissatisfied with the way the complaint was handled? What are you waiting for? Call 622 NCC toll-free number. 622 is your last resort to complaint resolution. Take advantage of us so no one takes advantage of you.
In keeping with our core values of innovation and excellence, we are expanding the frontiers of our social media platforms by launching a podcast, NCC Global Connect. Our podcast offers you a whole new experience on our social media engagements. To stay up to date with our regulatory initiatives, kindly visit our website www.ncc.gov.ng. Click on Media Center and scroll to the podcast channel icon to enable you experience the pool of regulatory information. NCC Global Connect podcast is available on multiple directories including Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, and so many others. NCC, connecting Nigeria.
The National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) has applauded the telecoms regulator NCC for its positive contribution to the gross domestic product (GDP). Latest ranking by the Bureau shows that the telecom sector contributed over 2 trillion naira to the nation's gross domestic product (GDP) in the first quarter of this year.
In the last 5 years, the Nigerian economy has largely gained from the contributions of the information and communications technology sector to its gross domestic product (GDP) with an all-time high of 14.42% in the second quarter of 2021. The country's telecommunications industry, regulated by the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), turned out to be outstanding in its performance of lifting the nation out of recession in the fourth quarter of 2020 alongside trade, services services and crop production. This was following the lull in economic activities caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Between the period of that intervention and now, the Nigerian telecom industry has continued its positive outlook. Increasingly, the sector is helping to improve the nation's ability to compete in the global economy as contained in the Commission's Strategic Vision Plan. Current figures released by the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) showed that the telecommunications and information services sector in Nigeria delivered 2.508 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2023 in terms of financial value contribution to the nation's GDP, representing 14.13%. Some industry experts spoke to Telecom Weekly on the recent data from the NBS and what it portends for the country's economy.
The contribution of telecom industry to the economy, to the Nigerian economy specifically, based on the report by the National Bureau of Statistics released recently on the first quarter of 2023, the contribution of telecom industry was massive. According to the report, the monetary value contribution is about is over 2.5 trillion naira, and in percentage it's about 14.13% to in contribution to GDP of Nigeria. So if you look at it, you can see that the contribution of telecom industry to our economy is massive. If you also look around, you can see anywhere you go, you will see people doing data, so many employment being generated in the sector. So to some extent, telecom industry in Nigeria is contributing greatly to our economy.
In fact, telecom industry and informational services has added value to this nation. In the GDP, federal government has really benefited through the broadband services and the licenses to these telecom operators, MTN and the rest of them, internet services and the likes, you see. And secondly, they've contributed a lot in the economy on the ease of doing business. You will agree with me that virtually every sector of the economy now is on telecom platform.
When compared on a year-on-year basis, the growth showed positive progression from 12.94% in the first quarter of 2022 to the first quarter of 2023, which is 14.13%. That is an approximate growth of 9.19%. One of the key highlights of the telecom industry's performance within the period was the generation of $820.8 million for the federal government from 5G spectrum license fees paid by three operators, MTN, Mafab and Airtel. One cannot also overlook the growth statistics of the telecom industry that shows a very impressive record of contributions to the country's economy. For the record, the number of phone subscribers as at April 2023 stood at 223.6 million subscribers, scoring a tele density of 117%. In the same vein, internet subscribers for the same period hit 157 million, while broadband subscriptions stood at 92 million, translating to 48% broadband penetration in the country.
When GDP is growing, we discover that we have the economy is also growing. Employment is being generated, and it's for the good of the country, because more youth that are unemployed can have something to do for themselves using one way or the other the opportunity provided by the telecom industry.
In an economy where we are, the budget proposal has not been implemented up to 100%. Due to funding challenges, and telecom industry alone is contributing 14.3%, which means if the industry is given a needed boost, if the government looks at that sector, because it is largely a sector that benefits the youth, and one of the successes any government can record is if your youth are well employed, they find something doing.
The steady growth of the telecoms industry over the years, particularly under the leadership of Professor Umar Garuba Dambata, with its pervasive positive impact on all other sectors of the economy, has been remarkable. In nominal terms, the sector contributed 21.15 trillion naira to GDP in 2022 and 17.78 trillion naira in 2021. Going by the NBC record, total contribution of the sector in 2022 in real terms stood at 16.51%, higher than the 15.51% reported in 2021. Telecom Weekly also spoke to some telecom consumers to seek their views on the impact of the sector on the economy in the last couple of years.
The telecom sector really is doing a whole lot of things, given the fact that the entire world is going digital. We need telecommunication to be able to achieve a lot. They generate a lot of funds for the government, and all of these go to intimate us, for us to know that yes, the telecom sector is actually boosting the economy of Nigeria.
I want to give them kudos for what they have done, because they've done a lot. The telecom sector have contributed a lot to the growth of the economy of the country. For example, let's take the airtime that we buy, the data that we use almost every day. There's some revenue that have been generated from there, and that is used to help. That is used to increase or to help the growth of the GDP of the country.
The impact and the contribution of telecom to the growth and development of Nigeria as regards its GDP is enormous. I can tell you for a fact that opportunities have been created. Lots and lots of opportunities have been created because the youths are technology savvy and they are very, very prompt in using telecommunication for all that they do.
With a firm commitment by the NCC to its effective regulatory regime that ensures a stable and robust telecom sector, there can only be a steady growth of the country's GDP, as already been witnessed.
The most common activities that consume internet data: download and streaming of videos in high resolution, emails with large file attachments, software package updates, always on social media feeds and notifications, online games, remote security cameras, data sent via virtual private networks, VPN.
Congratulations to all stakeholders in the telecom sector for this worthy achievement. This is the much we can take this week. But before we go, don't forget you can always be a part of this program by joining us via multiple social media platforms. For inquiries on this program, you can send a mail to telecomweekly@ncc.gov.ng. For further details on the activities of the Commission, visit www.ncc.gov.ng. Telecom Weekly is brought to you by the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC. Until we come your way again next week, I am Oluwatobi Enito, saying bye for now.